Jesmon. Brick City or top tier meta? Arguably pre-starter decks, it was a coin toss. However, with the new Gallantmon Red starter deck, get ready for some fun. As always, this deck is my personal preference and playstyle, and there are many ways you can adjust it to your style. I'll go over the card by card, possible substitutions, the strengths, and the weaknesses. Let's begin! This deck runs 4 level 2s, 16 level 3s, 12 level 4s, 6 level 5s, 5 level 6s, 2 level 7s, 7 option cards, and 2 tamers. For level 2s, this deck runs 4 Yokomon, a simple egg that gives your Digimon plus 1000 DP when attacking your opponent's Digimon. The primary reason for this is because I run Judgment of the Blade, an option card that lets my Digimon with Huck or Royal Knight in its type attack my opponent's unsuspended Digimon. Even Huckmon can pick a fight against Gabumons and Agumons with Yokomon. Although other individuals may opt for the plus 1000 DP from Demi-Meramon or Bebidomon for the plus 2000 DP instead if your Digimon has piercing. However, the issue with Bebidomon is that it's only viable with Jesmon himself. For aggro players who swing into security, Demi-Meramon may ultimately be the better choice. But for more tempo or control players, Yokomon is the best egg, in my opinion, to go. For level 3s, I went with 4 Monodramon, 4 Huckmon, 1 Promo Guilmon, 4 Starter Deck 7 Guilmon, and 3 Sistermon Blanc. Monodramon is your cheap 2-cost body to play into. It helps with memory choking, and helps build a wider board if you change to a more aggressive pace of game. As for Huckmon, a mandatory 4 of to search for your Sistermons, Bao Huckmon, Savior Huckmon, and Jesmon. After all, pre-starters, this deck had only one way to search for Savior Huckmon, this deck's MVP level 5. Luckily, there's more ways now to do it. As for Promo Guilmon, I don't think having multiple is necessary, especially with the current format of heavy removal in the security. If it happens to live, cool. I'll try and draw another card with it next turn. Otherwise, I dug one card deeper into my deck. As for Starter Deck 7 Guilmon, this Guilmon lets me draw a card when my opponent's Digimon is deleted. This is superior to the Promo Guilmon because the cause of deletion can be by battle or effect, which helps look for additional combo pieces or extenders. Finally, Sistermon Blanc for viable Sistermon targets, making my Sistermon into blockers while I have a Huckmon or Royal Knight on the field, and drawing me one card. So much utility, so much use. For substitutes, the level 3 lineup is tight, and there's not a lot I suggest adjusting. Huckmons, Guilmons, and Sistermons are mandatory for most decks, although some decks run less Blanc while others run more. My suggestion is tailor the level 3s to your playstyle. For more aggressive builds, go with the new starter deck Agumon for the plus 2000 DP buff in a security. Or, if you're more of a tempo player, the original starter Agumon for a generic plus 1000 DP buff. For level 4s, I currently am playing with 3 Bao Huckmon, 2 Cordramon, 4 starter deck Greymon, and 3 Sistermon Seal. You may be wondering, why only 3 Bao Huckmon? In playtesting, I found 4 to be kinda clunky at times. Granted, it's a search off Huckmon, but overall I'd rather just have my opponent think I run 4. Because then, I have room for other items in my deck. Remember, Bao Huckmon's effect is limited to only 5k DP and lower Digimon, which means the Cordramon blocker I have gets around this. Cordramon is in the deck for mainly the mirror match. They might be able to pierce and rip my security, but I'll have a blocker at the end if needed to stop the rest. 4 starter deck Greymon is absolutely a must for the deck, and helps with potentially OTKing your opponent. Lastly, 3 Sistermon Seal for the on-play +1 memory. Be wary of memory blockers when playing this, as they can block you from gaining that memory. But that plus 2000 DP buff really can come in clutch sometimes. Remember, Seal's buff applies to all Huck and Royal Knight Digimon. For substitutes, there's again not a whole lot you can substitute. I see some versions of the deck run Monochromon for the 1-cost Evo Choke. However, in the mirror match, it dies to Bao Huckmon effects. And again, I've seen some lists that run 2 Seal and others 3. I tried 2 Seals briefly and found that I wasn't seeing my Sistermons as much. 5 to 6 feels like the sweet spot for them. Agunimon is another popular card that has seen some play in this build. But I don't find it as useful as a finisher because if you're only running 2 Tamers, it's not a reliable strategy to go off of. For level 5s, this is where the deck gets really tricky. 4 copies of Savior Huckmon and 2 copies of Groundramon. I've seen some decks run only Savior Huckmon, I've seen other decks run Savior Huckmon and 3 to 4 other level 5s. Dan Bang's previous iteration of the build had 5 level 5s, and having tried it, I still couldn't find my level 5s. But before that, let's continue with Savior Huckmon first. Savior Huckmon lets you play a Sistermon from your hand on Digivolution. But there are a wide variety of cards to be weary of when evoing. Live Bullet, Javolt Schwarmer, Rattlestar, Gabubon, Agubon. There's so much that can go wrong if your opponent removes your Savior Huckmon. Killing it is the worst possible outcome because now you have 3 to 4 level 5s left in the deck. Savior Huckmon is also primarily responsible for restanding your Digimon if there is a Sistermon on the field. In combination with Jesmon, you can put 2 Sistermon out in a turn. But again, do be careful against blue decks, as Rattlestar can bottom deck your Jesmon. I went with 2 Groundramon because of its cheap on-play cost, and evolution cost. Unlike the BT5 format, where there was so much DP reduction, that's not as prevalent now, and playing small Digimon is viable again. Since consistency can be a problem with this deck sometimes you gotta slam that Groundramon down to start pressuring your opponent. Other level 5s I've seen in the build are Voltramon for more aggressive security checks, and Rise Greymon for the free Tai Kamiya Tamer play. In terms of playtesting, I feel Rise Greymon is most suitable in the deck if you're running 3 Tai Kamiyas instead of 2. For level 6s, I'd run 4 Jesmon and 1 BT2 Gallantmon. I see advantages of starter deck Gallantmon as well, but I personally like the BT2 Gallantmon for a few reasons, which I'll cover after our main level 6, Jesmon. Jesmon is the Lord Nightmon of Red, capable of playing a Sistermon from your hand or trash when attacking. It's not limited to once per turn, so in practical play, you can potentially put 2 Sistermon out on the board for a memory, a draw, and setting up your defense for next turn. Additionally, when a Sistermon is played, once per turn your Jesmon gets plus 3000 DP and Piercing. Now in previous versions I've played, I was playing BT1 War Greymon for the option card negation. But the downside was, it's not a Royal Knight. However, with BT2 Gallantmon, I can pseudo a delicate plan when attacking for the first check by trashing it instead. I don't anticipate it being difficult to get 10 cards in your opponent's trash, especially if the opponent is playing a purple build. In conjunction with the new Starter Deck 7 Guilmon, you have a way to warp Digivolve into this if your opponent has a level 6 Digimon. For level 7s, I run 2 copies of Blitz Omnimon for finishing the game. Again, a Jesmon with Savior Huckmon can potentially rip through 4 to 6 security, depending on if you have the +1 security check Greymon and or Tai. There's not a whole lot to say here, other than you could potentially add Omnimon X Antibody if you're going for a more tempo style. For option cards, I run 7 in the form of 1 A Delicate Plan, 2 Judgment of the Blade, 2 Red Memory Boost, and 2 Gaia Force. A Delicate Plan makes this deck have some resistance to option cards in the security, and while it's currently a 1 of, I don't know where I should drop a card to make it 2. Let me know in the comments what you'd suggest to drop for a second one. As for 2 Judgment of the Blade, this option card lets my Digimon with Huckmon in their names or Royal Knights in their type attack my opponent's unsuspended Digimon. With the addition of Gallantmon, even he can attack my opponent's unsuspended Digimon while trashing a security card off the top if they have 10 or more cards in trash. Red Memory Boost is primarily to help search for my combo pieces, and Gaia Force is my defensive option card. Last but not least, 2 Tamers in the form of Tai Kamiya for memory stabilization and an extra check if I have enough evolution components. Jesmon is a powerful deck that, when it goes off, it goes off. It is Red's first time of being able to build very wide boards, and has the best option cards for destruction and negating option cards. However, Jesmon's primary weakness is that depending on how it's built, you can brick. This has been mitigated with Red Memory Boost, but it is a minor fix at best. Can you imagine if Sistermon were also red instead of white? And while there are ways to negate option cards, it still doesn't stop your opponent from playing option cards on their turn to delete or bounce your Digimon. Because of this, many Jesmon players will sit in the raise comfortably for the one shot, depending on what they are playing against. Security Control is one deck that will likely force Jesmon decks to attack cautiously, as any single option card could remove their level 5s. The low count for level 5s is what also makes playing Jesmon difficult. If you don't find the level 5, you may have to hardplay Jesmon to force your opponent to the defensive. What do you think of Jesmon in the current BT6 format? What are changes you'd make to the deck, and why? Let me know in the comments below. As always, this is DIGI-PANDA, logging out.